Good afternoon and welcome today. Thank you for coming out on a snowy day. Before we begin, we will acknowledge that we're in the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples in the Huron-Robinson Treaties area. We recognize the long history of First Nations and Métis peoples on this land, and we show respect to them today. As we're learning from our First Nation partners, I want to stress the importance of accepting our responsibility to take care of Mother Earth, her plants, her animals, and our shared peoples. We look to each other and the elders of both nations as a source of inspiration, guidance, and the living memory of our communities. As settlers on this land, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and thank all the generations of people who've taken care of this land for thousands of years. So I'll call to order the meeting. We received an addendum this afternoon, which includes an updated plan for item 5A and correspondence that related to 5B, KC Holdings, Inc., and more correspondence related to 8F in the addendum. So with that, I call the meeting to order and ask for approval of the agenda from council. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Nope, seeing none. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of council held December 2nd, 2024 as circulated. Could I have a mover? Mario, all in favor? Thank you. And I have a second motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the special and closed session meetings of council held on December 9th, 2024 as circulated. Gail and Terry, all in favor? Thank you. Council of Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn the regular meeting to hold public meeting for the following matters. Consent application number B 2024-0028-C for Caruso, and official plan amendment application for the OPA 2024-0001-F and zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2024-0027-F for KC Holdings. Could I have a mover? Greg and Mario? And all in favor? Thank you. Council will now hold public meetings for proposed consent, zoning, bylaw amendment, and official plan amendment applications. In accordance with the Planning Act, Council will consider all matters placed before it prior to granting a consent or passing a zoning bylaw or official plan amendment. Anyone wishing to receive notice of a decision or a notice of passing of a zoning bylaw amendment or official plan amendment and who has not submitted such a request in writing should provide your full name and address to the clerk. No one other than the prescribed persons may appeal an application under the provisions of the Planning Act. If they do not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin prior to the decision of Council, then the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss the appeal. The purpose of consent application number B 2024-0028-C for Caruso is to permit a boundary adjustment. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting on the Township of Seguin's website and by regular mail on December 16th, 2024. Notice is therefore considered to provide in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to this application?
A revised site plan has been received from the applicant.
And is there anyone present in person in the council chambers who wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application? If so, please raise your hand. Nope. Has anyone registered to speak to this application via electronic participation?
Yes.
Barbara Caruso, Frank Biamonte, and Michael and Leah Haudzik have registered to speak this application via electronic participation.
Okay, so, and I believe, do we have Brady on? Yes, no? Brady there? Yes, okay. So Brady, do you want to take us through this application and what it is? And then we'll have the other people speak to it.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The purpose of this application is to permit a boundary adjustment. So the lands at 73 Alsasser Road would convey a parcel having an area of 0.12 hectares and a shoreline frontage of 12.2 meters on Horseshoe Lake to the lands at 77 Alsasser Road. No new lots would be created. I'm here if there are any questions.
Okay, thank you. So, Mrs. Caruso, do you want to start for us? Identify yourself and give us your address, please. I'm afraid you're still on mute. We still can't hear you, Mrs. Caruso. Your microphone is showing as muted in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. No, it moved from the top to the bottom. Well, okay, do we move to the next person? Oh, John,
I think that's probably Mr. Biamonte behind her, helping her out.
afraid we still can't hear
Can you
you.
hear me now?
Oh, yes, I can. Thank
That's
you.
the weirdest
Okay,
thing.
you have the
I do
floor.
Zooms most of my day and I've never had that happen. Okay, good afternoon. My name's Barbara Jo Caruso. I am the legal owner of property number 73. My husband, Frank Biamonte, is the legal owner of property number 77. I am asking for a partition of 12.2 meters from property 73 over to property 77. So it would make property 77 slightly larger and property 73 slightly smaller. Doesn't it change any of the setback requirements by law? The requirements for setbacks to buildings are 5 meters, and we would still be compliant with that. The setbacks for docks for property 73 is 12 meters is required, and we would be compliant with that. And the setback for the docks on property 77, based on the revised size of property 77, remains the same and is 9 meters, and this doesn't change that in any way.
Thank you very much. Is it Mr. Harstick, do you have a comment?
Yes, I have a presentation as well.
Could you identify your address,
It's
please?
1904 Latimer in Sudbury. I'm a I'm a co-owner of the property adjacent to 79 Alsasser Road.
Could you speak up a little bit? We're having trouble hearing you. Or
Okay.
increase your volume?
Okay. Let's see. I'll just have to speak about it. I get a bit of a congestion, but my name is Leo Wozdick. I'm the co-owner of the property adjacent to 77 79 Alsasser Road. How's that for volume? Is that better?
Yes, that's better. Thank you.
Okay. I have a presentation. I don't have any issues with the severance. I just have a bit of an issue with the setback and how it's measured. It doesn't follow the regulations. I have a presentation, a couple slides. I don't know how to present it.
You can share your screen if you wish.
Okay, so where do I share? How do I share a screen? Sorry, I'm not familiar with Zoom.
It'll be at the bottom of your screen. I think it should say share
Okay,
screen.
share, all right, all right. Oh, I see, it's not, oh, there it is there, okay. Can you see
We can see typing.
can you see it now?
Yes.
All right. So the issue is, we've been going back and forth with the planning department. Initially, there was no onshore structures, and we got the latest onshore structure on January 9th, which shows a setback of 9 meters, and that's the planning department received a notice that the owners have advised that the measurement outlined in the site plan was taken diagonally. Now, the minimum distance are measured perpendicular from any structure to the property line. A 9-meter diagonal measurement would not conform with the minimum setbacks provided below. Now, this is the regulations of bylaw saying that in their property on the 79, even with the increase, it falls in the line of 31 to 60 meters. So it gives them a 9-meter setback. So that is my issue, is that this measurement down, can you see my pointer?
Yes, we can. And we
Okay.
have it. We have the revised drawing in our addendum package.
Yes. So you can see that they're claiming that that measurement is not diagonal. Anything diagonal is not minimum distance. And I just wish that number that the minimum distance be applied. Now, mind you, these are sketches. I grant that. And so I don't know where to go from there, but all I'm looking for is that the minimum distance be considered perpendicular to the property line from any structure. That's all.
Okay,
I'm
as a
looking
next step, I'm going to ask Brady Devis, our planning person, to speak to it. And we all have the revised drawing that has the dock in it. So Brady, can you comment on it? Mr. Hosdick, could you take your screen down, please, so we can see the other participants in the meeting?
Okay, so, all right, if I just pull it off, does that do anything to?
Just, no, go down to the bottom of your screen and push stop sharing.
Okay.
What is his point?
Doesn't show. I'm going to the bottom of the screen and there's. Okay,
There. Okay, we've taken it down for you. So
Thank you.
Brady, could you speak to the setbacks for us, please? Thank you.
Yes, through you, your worship. The existing shoreline structure, it did receive a building permit, and that is the one that is being referenced on the site plan. And referenced on the site plan, that setback does comply with the minimum standard of the zoning bylaw. The boundary adjustment application does not affect that existing shoreline's setback to the lot line either.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions of anyone? No? Okay. Thank you. Now we move on.
Just letting Tim in for the next meeting.
Oh, okay.
So if you would ask these people to.
Okay. The clerk is going to change the screen and take Ms. Caruso, Mr. Biamonte, and Mr. Hosdick out for the second part of the public meeting, but your consent application will be referenced when we come out of the closed meeting at the end. So So you're in the waiting room and you can come back when we come out of closed. So I need page out of public meeting. Oh, oh, I have the other one. Sorry. The purpose of official plan amendment application number OPA 2024-0001-F and zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2024-0027-F for KC Holdings, Inc. is to redesignate and rezone the lands to create a community comprised of 5 commercial lots, 20 semi-detached residential lots, 26 5-plex residential lots, and 17 single-detached residential lots. This will result in a total of 187 residential units on 63 lots. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property on December 20th, 2024, by posting on the Township of Seguin's website, and by regular mail on December 19th, 2024. Notice was therefore considered provided in accordance with requirements of the Planning Act.
Tim Kane of Huon Group, Inc., a consultant for the Township of Seguin on these applications, will now provide a summary of the applications. Tim, thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of council, and any of the public that are watching. As introduced, my name is Tim Kane. I've been engaged by the township and directed to assist with the township's consideration of the applications being heard before you today. I'm also author of the report that council would have seen by now, and certainly here to answer any questions following the discussion that we have this afternoon. I'm only going to give a brief overview, as I understand that Mr. Hall is in attendance and will be making a presentation, but certainly if there are questions arising from that, both Mr. Hall and myself should be able to answer those as best we can. If not, we'd be happy to follow up with council and any members of the public if we're not able to answer those questions today. I'd also like to make everyone aware that any comments that we hear today will be responded to and be referred to in our future recommendation report to council once we've undertaken a full review of the application and the background studies. The applications today before council are for the purposes of getting public input and council input for amendments to the township's official plan and comprehensive zoning bylaw to establish the higher order planning permissions to permit the proposed development concept. The applications, if they were approved by council at a future meeting with the recommendation report before you, they would provide a site-specific exemption in the township's official plan and comprehensive zoning bylaw to allow for the development concept that was attached as part of the report. That concept shows 63 lots, new 63 lots being proposed with the potential for 197 units. And how that works is that there's going to be a mix of single detached dwellings in there, but more importantly, options for a greater density of units in terms of having duplexes, 3 units, 4 units, and possibly even 5 units on site, depending on how well each one of those lots in the subdivision can accommodate that based on the studies that have been undertaken. To that end, the supporting studies submitted in support of the application include an archaeological study, an environmental impact study, hydrogeological study, land use compatibility study, and a stormwater management brief. As I mentioned, the application, if approved, would provide for a variety of housing supply at a time when that's very much needed in the township and even wider to that end, particularly when housing supplies are in short supply in the immediate term. Additional applications for subdivision and plan a condominium will still be required moving forward. Even if council decides to approve these applications, those subsequent applications will be required, and staff will have the opportunity to implement specific conditions to implement any of the comments that we've heard and to implement any of the recommendations in the supporting studies. So with that, I'm going to leave it to Mr. Hall to present the application. And as mentioned, I'm here for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, you can come to the podium, make sure the little green light is on, and Craig will there's your presentation. It's coming.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of council, members of staff, and public, any members of public watching or here in person. My name is Kirby Hall. I represent our family business, KNC Hall Holdings and Hall Development with respect to a proposed development on Osler Park Drive. It's a 140-acre site. It's represented here in this aerial photo. Approximately the area encompassed by the red line on one side, Hunter Drive on the north side, and then Osler Park Drive, of course, on the west side. It's basically a single road that loops in and around with lots that basically equally spaced kind of around that yellow line, which represents road. The entrance to it will be directly across from James Bay Junction Road North. So this is just an engineered drawing of it, showing the road, showing the lot layout. These are basically 1.5 acre to 2 acre lots. So just going to step through the bit of the planning process, the studies we've completed, and then the overall concept of design and what we're trying to achieve. So as Tim mentioned, we've done several studies: archaeologist study, environmental impact study, hydrogeologic study for well and septic, and a land use compatibility study, stormwater management, engineering report, and a complete boundary survey was done as well. So these are very important studies to undertake. One, the archaeology study was a phase 1 and a phase 2 was completed to ensure there was no impact of any archaeology sites. The phase 1 identified possibility due to I guess the Osler Park Drive used to be part of a settlement road. So we undertook to do some investigation along that corridor to make sure there was no former areas that we might impact, which there wasn't, so that was good. The environmental impact study was an important study we had to undertake. Fortunately, the property doesn't have a lot of wetland, but it does have a couple of areas of wetland on it that we've identified and will preserve and create setbacks to. So that was a good one to do as well. The hydrogeological study is 2 parts. One is a septic and one is a well study, because this is not serviced by water and sewer. This will be serviced by drilled well and septic. So the site itself it's a little different. It's as far as what we're used to seeing in the area. It's got a very thick layer of sandy overburden over the bedrock, and the sand is of good quality for a septic. So it makes it very conducive to putting septics in on this property. And the well study was one that we actually spent a fair bit of money on. We brought a tracked drill into the middle of the site, and we actually drilled a couple of wells, like deep wells, to ensure that we had good water. And what we found was incredible water. We had very good supply and we had very good quality. So that gave us a lot of assurance that what we were proposing was viable. And that was sort of the most important one that I did. And once we had that, then the proof, that was sort of proof of concept that what we're proposing was going to work. If we didn't have good water, I probably wouldn't be here. Like, it just wouldn't be feasible to develop this site. But we fortunately had good water. So we also did a study of the surrounding wells in the area, and just to study the impact of future wells on the current system. So that was part of the study as well, just to ensure that we weren't going to negatively impact any of the surrounding wells. So that was part of that study. The land use compatibility study, that basically just looks at, who your neighbors are, what their use is, and make sure that we're not going to negatively affect them or some existing use isn't going to be, a cause for complaint, for example, for what we're proposing. So it goes both ways. So we have a concrete plant to the south abutting us. So that was key in how we designed everything. So in that area, in the area of the concrete plant, we're proposing commercial light industrial in that area. So that's compatible with that. And it's also compatible with the Osler Park, which is the employment corridor for the area. On Hunter Drive, we have residences. So we wanted to ensure that whatever we do on that along there, we don't want to negatively impact that as well. So we put the like the lower density housing along that side. So we just want to make sure that we're compatible, I guess, with our neighbors. And then of course, stormwater, that's a key study that's been undertaken just to make sure that we're not negatively impacting any water that's going to exit our site. So we can't negatively impact a neighboring property with our stormwater. So that was how it is. In the boundary survey, that basically encompassed the whole property. It identified any existing areas of concern. So we did find a couple of buried power lines that crossed our properties. So we made sure that we picked those up, and we're going to work through getting easements for our neighbors for those buried property lines that happen to be on our property, those sorts of things. So those were picked up in the boundary survey. So we really dotted our I's and crossed our T's here. We're really far along in the process. This has been about a 2.5-year process to get through all these studies. So as I mentioned, the site will be serviced by septic and well. There's natural gas nearby. There's fiber optic nearby. Our proposal is to have a paved road with additional bike/walking lane. Streetlights, not high impact streetlights, but enough streetlights that, if it's 5:30 at night in November, your kids can get home safely from the neighbors. Like, we want to make sure it's a good, safe community for the residents. All the utilities will be buried. We won't have any unsightly hydro lines. It's going to be a nice, neat, and tidy development. So process submittals, we've submitted for official plan amendment. We've submitted for zoning bylaws, why we're here today. And following this, we'll be submitting subdivision condo application. So we have some lofty goals, but namely we want to be affordable, and we want to create an active living community. And when I say active living, we want to see people outside. We want to see people outdoors. We want to embrace nature. We're going to integrate several kilometers of really low impact trails, walking trails, running, this time of year, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing. And then along with that, integrating it into the Rose Point trail system as well. If you have a snowmobile or an ATV, you can connect to the Rose Point Trail. And along with the main one is being affordable. So another, again, to follow along with an active living, we are going to build some sort of a sport court, whether it be a pickleball, tennis, or just a pickleball. It's going to, but we're going to create one of those. We're going to build a playground. Again, the bike lane, the nature trails, just promoting active living. So affordability is a big task. And how do we get there? So we've taken a certain portion of our properties, and our application is to build up to 5 units on one lot. So in the province of Ontario, you can accommodate 5 units, provided that your daily septic flow meets a certain criteria, and you can service 5 units from one drilled well. So we have good soils for septics, and we have really good water. So that ensures that we can service these 5 units by one septic and one well. So that allows us to take the lot cost, take the infrastructure cost, take the cost of septic, take the cost of well, and divide that by 5. And rather than just by 1, that gets us to a price point where we can be affordable. So our goal is to get to a price point of $499,000 to $599,000. So we've proposed to do a mix with some of these up to 5 units, some of them up to 2 units. And we've also got some of the ones that are close to our neighbors on Hunter Drive, just as singles. So it'll create a nice mix. We'll also introduce bungalow style living or bungalow with loft, and also just 2-story. So we'll try to hit all demographics to promote a healthy community. A healthy community isn't just one demographic. A healthy community is created by having, kids and elders and families and everybody living together. That's really what creates a healthy community, and that's what we're trying to do here. So the 5-home lot concept, a couple of AI generated images, but basically smaller homes, 1,000 square feet, 1,200 square feet, very small footprints. Again, just trying to get something that's affordable, attainable for people that are working, that are working in an area that can afford something that they can afford. We also have a 2-home lot design where we can either have a semi or we can have 2 homes on a lot. These are 100-foot wide lots and they're 500 feet deep. So they're very large lots, even though they'll have 2 houses. So overall, I guess that is our concept. And if there's any questions, happy to answer those.
Thank you, Kirby and Tim. Has the township received any correspondence with respect to these applications?
Correspondence has been received from Ingrid and Ernie Mueller, Michael Smith, Nicole Malo, and Brian Hindley, and John Bondrager.
Is there anyone present in person in the council chambers who wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to these applications? Okay, could you please come to the podium and identify your name and your address? And I think, did Kirby leave the little green light on? Yep. Thank you.
I'll bring that down. Can you hear me? My name is Mary Hunter. My husband Doug Hunter's here also, and we live at 51 Hunter Drive. And we're the Hunters from Hunter Drive, but not the Hunters. And we are excited. We met Kirby. He came and knocked on our door, and we're excited to have something next door to us. And the only little concern we have is our water supply, which actually I'm glad he brought up because we hadn't heard that part. But we would like to have it on record that we'd like to have our tested for recovery rate in case there's a drop in pressure in the future. And then, maybe have it tested again later with that many houses. And as he mentioned, the water is wonderful, and I wouldn't like to see us lose it. We ran into this one time in another community where they put in a treatment plant and we lost our water. So we know what it's about. So that's why we want to make sure. It's the only concern I think we have at this moment. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm assuming that Kirby and his company will take that into consideration as things move forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Do you want to come to the microphone and then introduce yourself and your address, please?
I am Christine Reitzel. We're at 93 Hunter. We have the longest border along this new development. And we just want to make sure this is going to be some kind of fence or something that's going to protect us from people thinking that we're going to be part of the trail system or part of the, they're going to do this green trail system. We don't want to feel like people can just come onto our property and feel like that's part of the green space. Also the water, I'm glad that was brought up because that's a concern for us as well. And that there will be no towers of any sort to ruin our night sky. I mean, no blinking tall towers. I'd like to know that's on record that we won't have that. And that there's a height restriction. So we know we put on a second floor on our property and we weren't allowed to because there's a height restriction for buildings. So we just want to make sure that there is the same height restriction for this development.
Okay, thank you. I think, once again, I think Mr. Hall is recording these comments, and to the best of my knowledge, there'll be no towers. Anybody else that wishes to speak? Has anyone registered to speak to these applications via electronic participation?
No one has registered to speak to these applications by electronic participation.
Does council have any questions? Councillor Bazinski.
Thank you. In terms of the Hall subdivision, I just had a couple of comments. I'm positive on it. I think it's a great concept, and I'm sure it'll work out fine with all these little kinks in it. But I just had a couple of comments, and for your consideration. And when you're planning this out, it's a question of, number one, waste management, and you should probably be in touch with our Director of Public Works. The Brooks Road transfer station is pretty full most times, and so I guess I would have a question, which you don't have to answer today, but how is garbage going to be managed in the development? Is it going to be directly collected and taken to the Orville landfill site? Is it going to be put into a transfer station site? So that's something to consider. And the only second comment I would have is typically when there's construction of that scale, the existing roads take a beating. And if you could look into, I know when I used to work with pipeline construction, there'd be a photo inventory taken of the roads before construction and then after, and so try to see if there was any damage that needed to be fixed as a result of the construction. Those are my only comments.
I can speak to the second one. I probably am not qualified to speak to the first one. That's probably more staff. I understand that there is no garbage pickup, so I assumed it would be dropped off by the residents at the Brooks Road, but if there's another alternative, I mean, I'm sure we can work through that. Yeah, as far as the roads go, fortunately, we're right off of Osler Park, which is former Highway 69. Most definitely, any impact at the entrance of the road would probably be the location that would be subject to the most damage, which we would for sure fix if there was any. As far as the major construction goes, most of it's just going to be on site through, like, most of the road base will be created through a cut fill balance. So there's not a lot of importing of materials other than the top gravel. So it's, then of course you have the homes, the ready mix, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't suspect there will be too any issues just because we're right off a main arterial road. In this case, we're not off a secondary road.
Councillor Bazinski.
Thank you. And maybe for our Director of Public Works, because I think in our roads needs study, we identified Osler Park Drive as a priority for work. So we may want to, depending on how fast you see this subdivision going, we may want to have the Director of Public Works consider, should we hold off on doing that upgrading to Osler Park Drive or not? It's something to consider anyway. That'd be for the township to consider.
Director McLeod, do you want to respond to that?
No, I think I'm okay right now. Just there's a lot of takeaways from this, so I just want to be absolutely certain and talk with some counterparts as well. Yeah, but I'm here to answer any questions. I guess I can speak to the waste management system. Yeah, there was some operational reviews going on, which future development will be taken into account for how we operate capacities at each of our sites.
And our Chief Administrative Officer would like to weigh in here too.
Thank you, Worship, members of council. Just with respect to Whistler Park Drive, I know we have identified the need for some upgrades and some enhancements to that road. However, given the current condition, I believe it's many years out before we actually make that major investment. I think we're going to do some micro or slurry seal to tie us over for the next 8 to 10 years. But I suspect if everything goes as planned and if Mr. Hall and his team advance through their construction, we would, of course, work timing that road reconstruction around any development opportunities that are happening at the same time. So I think it's pretty low risk that we would be having any negative impacts on Whistler Park Drive.
Council, Gail?
Okay, it's not really well, it is a question. When I worked in Whitby, I opened a school in a new development area, and that development had houses from 150,000 to 2 million in the same neighborhood. Never worked at a better school in my entire career. It was fantastic. Every walks of life. It was the happiest, the best school I ever worked at. Now, those houses were really low rent, but they looked just like every other house, right? All the houses looked the same. They all kind of blended into the neighborhood. When you say you're doing the 5 plexes and affordable is $499 to $599, that's a lot for one house, right? And if you're going to do 5 on one lot, that's still a lot. So does that mean that the other houses are going to be 1 million? Like, I don't understand if that's an affordable, attainable. It's not attainable for most people. Maybe it is for 2 career people. It is maybe if you're working at the hospital, but if you're working at, one of you is at McDonald's, I just wonder if there's any other way to get anything a little more attainable. That is, like, I think that's possibly attainable, but it's not very attainable for most people. It may seem like it because houses are so expensive now, but it still doesn't reach that for me. It doesn't reach it doesn't say affordability to me. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm fortunate. My kids are all older and they all have homes and they bought them when they were affordable. But anyway, it was just a comment, but I do remember in that one development, there was every single kind of home. They all looked the same. Another good example is in Bracebridge. I was canvassing in Bracebridge and there was a development there and it's the same thing. Like, they had these semis that were very small and they were like a whole different price range, but you'd never notice. Like, I didn't even know that until somebody actually pointed it out to me. And they, again, had trails and parks, and what a beautiful thing that is. And so it's a very exciting concept for sure. That was just a comment, not really an ask. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just commenting that it just seems a little high still for my brain keeps saying like affordable, attainable. I don't know. Anyway, but a great concept because I've seen those developments and they are pretty wonderful, right? When you consider everything, when you consider all of the people and the walking and I like it. Like, I like the idea for sure.
I can respond if you, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, post 2018, 2019, what you could build for 5-6 years ago, what you can build for today, it's just drastically changed. So, if you could buy a home for $350,000 as 5-6 years ago, that same home, you can't build it for that today. So that's just the reality that we're in. You probably don't have to look far in the media to see that as to what's going on in the world, but that's the reality, unfortunately. And it's just, inflation is real. It went out of control since 2019, and that's just the reality. So it's probably the best we can do. You could get a better price point by building less. So we could offer, say, a small, like sort of a smaller unit per se, as part of a house, but might be 600 square feet, 700 square feet, like condo style for less.
If you think of anything.
Yeah,
it would-
absolutely.
It would certainly put
we're-
a smile on my face.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I don't have
We're-
the answer. I know what
Yeah.
you're saying is true. I just like,
That's real.
I know you're a creative fella, so I know that you can help me out here. Thank you. It's okay.
Yeah,
Thank you. That was a
I
good
wish we
answer.
could, but it's, but our goal is to, you know, to be affordable for as many of people as we can. And when I think of people that work with us and work for us, you know, I'm pretty confident that they can afford that type of price point. So, I feel that it's a good mark, and it's probably the best we can do as far as offering something, to your point, that looks good, is substantial enough for them to live in. I mean, you can always build less for less, but we don't want to cut too many corners.
If there was government money, would it make a difference?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, just thank you. I'll keep that in mind.
Counselor Adams?
I just wanted to say, when I was doing building, you could build a home for about $100 a square foot. High end was about $150 a square foot. Now I think you could almost say it's $400 a square foot, and probably higher than that now.
Yeah.
You know, so it's hard to get anything now for fairly cheap.
Okay, any other questions? Congratulations. We need the houses. So
You.
thank you for all the work you've done and all coming to us with all the studies completed. So thank you.
Thank you.
Council will now close the public meeting and reconvene to the regular meeting. So motion that the public meeting held for the following matters is hereby closed and the regular meeting is hereby reconvened. The consent application number B 2024-0028-C for Caruso, and the official plan amendment application and zoning bylaw amendment application for KC Holdings, Inc. Could I have a mover? And then Mario? All in favor, coming out of public? Thank you. Thank you. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby grant provisional approval to consent applications number B 2024-0028-C for Caruso, subject to the conditions set out in the decision. I have a mover, Muriel and Ken, all in favor? And that is carried. Carusos are no longer online. No. And we move now to the delegations, and I see Howard Wesley, our trustee for the Near North District School Board, online. Thank you, Howard, for agreeing to be here. You're going to take us through a little bit of an update, and then I hope answer some questions. So welcome.
Oh, thank you. And through you, Your Worship, I want to thank you for the invitation to discuss our new build and for your commitment to the West Prairie Sound Recreation Center. I understand there are questions regarding the new build and the letters we've shared, and I'm happy to address them today. I'm incredibly proud that our current board has responded to the numerous municipal resolutions calling to save McDougall School by passing a motion to preserve it. This motion has been submitted to the province, but to date, we have not yet received a response. In addition to this, we've recently launched an environmental committee and put forward a motion to protect rural elementary schools. My hope is that these will guide our board and the province in preserving these important community assets. Now, as for the new build, all the information related to the new build is available on our website, including photos, layouts, and the studies the province used to determine the size and scope of the project. I thought I would just share my screen and provide you a few highlights, if that's okay.
Sure. Please go ahead.
Thank you.
Great. We can see it now.
Perfect. So thanks to the province for their $54.8 million, we were able to begin the project. But I also like to take a moment just to make sure that everyone's aware that our board itself has put 3.8 million into this project, and that's from the sale of 2 schools in North Bay and our accumulated surplus. So a total investment of this project is $58.6 million. And on the top of this slide, it actually shows you a link to be able to get any of that information on our website. Part of the project will include 298 parking spaces, something that people ask for, a new outdoor basketball court, 6 outdoor hex pods. This is to help with outdoor learning, also to deal with changes in student populations. And then finally, I put a link there which members, the public can click into, which is actually a 12-minute presentation of the scope of the project. Within the project, there are an elementary wing and a secondary wing, and they're separated as the public asked for. There's updated equipment and technology for all of the programs. On site, there will be a daycare space and as well a new early on space for learning. So that's really the quick scope of the project, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Howard. Does council have any questions? Councillor Bazinski.
Thank you. I wonder if you could just discuss the future of the Humphrey School, given that we should be experiencing an increase in population based on, well, potential developments such as the one we just talked about. Really, it'll expose my ignorance, but, you know, as my understanding is Seguin, like for high school, would send their kids into Parry Sound. And are we still having our young children going to the Humphrey School? Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. Absolutely, it will continue. Humphreys, there's no plans to close Humphrey, if that's the question. It will be continually operating. And if there was ever a change, there would be an accommodation review process, but there's been no ask for that. So it will be as it is today.
Thank you. Any other questions? I just have a quick question. When do you hope to hear from the province about your letter requesting the McDougall School be open? Will it be before the K-12 school opens?
Our hope is that we will get this answer by February. That's what we asked the ministry to respond by.
Okay, and if McDougall stays open, will the new school still be K-12?
Through your worship, I can't speak to that. That would be an operational question. But as it stands right now, it is a K-12 school. So it is possible that K-12 would be in there. That's where we're at the moment. If McDougall, if the province does respond in a positive manner, then it would be, the request was to make McDougall a K-6 school. So.
Thank you. Councillor Fellner.
Thank you, Mayor. There's been a bit of controversy about the new gymnasiums in the high school. And I've heard different versions of what the community's actually getting or what the school's getting and what it's not. I was wondering if you could clarify for me what, as far as the replacement gyms, what do they comprise of?
Yes, again, through your worship. It is 2 gymnasiums, or 1 large gymnasium for the high school, and then there's 1 full gymnasium for the elementary children. So that's what we have.
Okay, and the gym for the high school, it's a full-size gym? Is it like a regulation gym?
Absolutely.
Or is it 2 regulation gyms?
No, it's one full regulation, like basketball court gym. That
Yeah.
would be, yeah.
But it
absolutely.
is, yeah, there's no plans to change that.
No.
Okay, thank you.
And Councillor Adams has a question, but will the gyms have spectator capacity?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. We have a basketball tournament happening this weekend where we expect 400 spectators all day Saturday and Sunday. So Councillor Adams.
My question is, why do they want to close McDougall School? Is it because of its age? Too much to get it up to standards, or like it's gonna impound on the new school, is it not?
Yeah, so I know this goes back many years, but in 2013, there was an accommodation review process. At that time, the public had decided that we would have a K to 12 school, one with an elementary and a secondary wing. So that's what the public asked for at the time. And unfortunately, the province has had a moratorium on any new conversations about what schools can look like or amalgamate or move or close. So really, the province is not allowing any new conversations to happen. So the build, and I'll also say from the build's perspective, when it was set what the K to 12 school would be, there was an embargo put in place. So there wasn't an ability for the school board to really have additional conversations about that build. So it's kind of, we're stuck with the province having, first, that moratorium on any new accommodation reviews. And secondly, with that embargo, and that's attached to the funding of the new build, that had to be built as a K to 12 school.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Howard, this is a first to have a trustee come to council, and I know some somersaults were done to get you here. So thank you very much for opening up the communication, and I hope we can keep it going. You're always welcome at council when you have news, and I appreciate what you did to get here. So thank you very, very much. And thank you for what you're doing as our trustee.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Good. Thank you. Move on. I believe next is the Rotary Club of Parry Sound, and I see both Dave and Phil, I believe. Are you going to do it together? So if you would come to the microphone, just make sure that the little green light is on. That's great.
Well, I'd like to thank on behalf of Rotary, hear me okay? Voice is kind of low today. I'd like to thank on behalf of Rotary, you're welcoming us here, Mayor McDermott and council and councilors and staff. It's my pleasure to introduce our president, Dave Williams, and I'll join you in just a minute after that.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you for having us, Mayor McDermott, council, staff, and residents. Phil himself is a past president and current president-elect of the club, so I'm happy to have him join us. He's going to take a seat for a couple minutes. I believe you're trying to get our presentation on screen, so I'll talk while that, just to be brief, I'll talk while you work on that. I believe it's been about 18 months since someone from the Rotary Club of Parry Sound has been here. So I appreciate you having us back. And I'm just going to give you a bit of an update on some things that have happened over the last, since the last time we were here. Thank you. I'm not a technology guy, but hopefully this looks like a TV remote, so that's fine. So yeah, reviewing a few great successes. So in 2023, so Rotary, we're going to talk more about this in a second. So I'm actually going to skip the first line there, the 3 pitch. But in 2024, we hosted the Maple Leaf Alumni hockey game, which coincided with the Shamrock's 100th anniversary. So it was a big success. We had some well-known NHL players join us in the community. We also had some people from the community play against them. I'm not sure if there was any of your constituents or Mr. Inwood there. It looks like, did you score any goals or, oh, you scored a goal. So there. Oh, jeepers. Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully you're doing well now. So, well, we thank you to the Township of Seguin for your participation in that as well. So another thing that In April, we had our foundation evening. We awarded 2 Community Paul Harris Fellows to members of the community, non-Rotarians, which is a big event for us. Paul Harris Fellows are the most distinguished award that our club gives out, and so we were happy to give that to people in the community. We've also made now over $61,000 in contributions to the new community pool, which I know many of your constituents and residents will be happy to see that. And of course, Mayor McDermott is a big part of the driving force behind that. So we look forward to continued partnership in that regard. We've made many contributions over the last year and a half, continued, but since the last time we were here, to the West Prairie Sound Health Center for local cancer care. Just recently, last month, we also partnered with the Salvation Army to pack and deliver over 100 Christmas hampers to families in need. And we also participated in the Santa Claus Parade. I will come back to the 3-pitch tournament in just a second, but I'm going to ask Phil Black to talk a little bit about our legacy, and then I'll come back in just a second.
Yeah, I'm basically the historian of the group because of my age, probably. Doesn't qualify me by way of my memory, but that doesn't help. I'd really been most involved with the finances of the group for many years, and my wife has now taken over, so it's a family affair. In regard to the where we've placed the money in the past and present, since 1936, Rotary has been involved with pretty well with every major fundraising project in the area. Recently, we have funded some 29 community requirements over the past year, over $500, but a lot of smaller ones too. Now that includes $5,000 for the high school bursaries every year, and we're helping them on their individual projects when they travel. We usually give them some money for that. $7,000 for wheelchair needs in the community. $7,000 for the hamper project, which exceeds our expectations every year. Very generous community we're in. We have a regular, or not to fail to mention that we've contributed so far $61,000 to the Pool and Cultural Center under the wonderful contribution you make as leadership in that area. I want to thank you very much. We have regular projects that we fund every year. There's a commitment there, so that's why we're aggressively trying to get funds to make sure that we do meet these needs. Minor hockey team we sponsor, the McPherson Air Cadets, a hospital in Africa, the breakfast program in 2 schools, the Drop Hospice, the Christmas Hamper Project, which garnered over $7,000 this year. That's just among others. We have a broad hand in filling critical needs in our community, and we hope to continue in that regard. I'll turn it back to Dave. Thank you very much.
All right, so I'm going to just briefly get back to the 3-pitch, kind of the reason we're here. So in 2019, Rotary took over a community event which was formerly called the Rage Tournament. It's now called Rotary Strikes Cancer. It's a slow pitch tournament that takes place in June on Father's Day weekend each year at Kinsman Park. And this is one of our marquee fundraisers, and one of the ways we're able to give back to some of the things that Phil just mentioned and earlier that I talked about. But a lot of the money that we raise through that weekend event goes to the West Prairie Sound Health Center directly into local cancer care for those who are struggling with that disease. So what happens on the weekend? We have sponsors. We have a silent auction. Of course, we have entries from baseball teams across the province. And this raises a substantial amount of money. So we're here today to ask for your continued support. Thank you for your past support of this three-pitch tournament, the Rotary Strikes Cancer. And I'm not sure how far along you are in your 2025 budget discussion, but we would ask that you would consider contributing to the Rotary Club Perry Sound Rotary Strikes Cancer three-pitch tournament again this year, and assure you that that money that we raise will go to benefit those in your community and the surroundings. Now if you have any questions about Rotary or this tournament in particular, Phil or I would be happy to answer your questions.
Council, do you have any questions? I think Rotary continues to do a great job, and certainly the Recreation and Culture Center appreciates your continued support. It's been significant, and we thank you for everything you do in the community. Does anybody have any further questions? I don't think so, but we will consider your request for the softball tournament. We have been a regular donor, even though last year was canceled, so it'll get considered.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Drive safely. And we have Nadine. Okay. So the third delegation is Nadine Hammond from the West Perry Sound District Museum. Nadine, you have the floor. You're on mute. There you go.
Noticed. Thank you. Mayor McDermott, Council, thank you so much for your time and consideration. Bear with me while I share my screen. Thank you. So the West Perry Sound District Museum undertook a number of projects in 2024. We started a youth train club where our dedicated train volunteers taught 6 youth how to build their own layouts, installed 4 temporary exhibitions, a curling exhibition celebrating 125 years, the legacy of the Wabano, Reconnecting Me to You, which was a photograph exhibition asking the community for assistance in identifying unnamed individuals. And we just opened The People of the Watershed, photographs by John McPhee, which was curated and circulated by the McMichael Art Collection. That particular exhibit is still on display and will be at the museum until about mid-April. Additional programs that we offered in 2024 was Yoga on the Deck, a brown bag lunch series to complement our Wabano exhibition, our genealogy club, which meets 9 times a year over Zoom, as well as we attended 7 summer markets. Sorry, that's a bit of a tongue twister for me. So the museum contributes to the community through our mandate to collect, preserve, and share the history of the community. This is accomplished through exhibits, our genealogy club, and other special programming. Revenue is generated through admission sales, gift shop sales, and facility rentals. However, without the support from local government, a museum is not sustainable. The board and staff are continuously looking for ways to generate revenue without taking away from our mandate. We are working on some exciting projects for 2025. We have received Trillium funding to employ an archivist to organize our research materials and make them available to the general public in the form of a research library. That's set to open this spring. Additionally, I have been conducting research for a new exhibit honoring our volunteer firefighters. That exhibit will run from January. It's set for a soft launch opening next week, and it will run to the end of December. Last year, we introduced the idea of a very, very simple calculation of 0.04% that the museum would use to base our requests on. The resulting funds of this calculation would provide the funds necessary for basic operations. So that would be 1 staff member, our utilities, telecommunications, and snow removal items of that type. We understand that Seguin Township had concerns about this method of requesting funds. As such, we have not increased our request this year until we can better understand what Seguin's concerns are and better address how we can serve the Seguin community. So today's funding request is the same as last year's, which is $22,500. And with that, that concludes my presentation today.
Does council have any questions? Just a question for you, Nadine. As I look at page 7 of your financial statements, it shows $219,953 cash in the bank. Is that correct?
As of yesterday?
Well, it was 2023.
Yeah, 2023. So the financial statements would be correct. As of yesterday, no, we had significantly more in the bank.
Okay. You will recall that, yes, we did object to the 4% calculation, and we allocated a portion of our allocation to you last year with the understanding that we'd see some more development throughout the year. And I don't believe we received anything further, did we, Ken? Business plan? But they never requested for the remainder of the money from last year.
No, the business plan was
Nope.
submitted with our request for 2025. It just, as much as we thought we could get it to you sooner in the year, it just was not feasible to pull that particular report earlier.
Okay. Councillor Collins, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm thinking that the grant that we gave the museum was $17,500 last year.
Yes.
And you're asking for $22,500 this year.
Yes,
So
that
you're
is
actually, you are actually increasing it. I'm on the notion that a lot of these grants that we're giving out, there's a ceiling. The ceiling is $50K. And you're almost asking for 50% of the grants that we give out to the rest of the municipalities and businesses and so on and so forth. So, I mean, I don't think we're voting on this right now, are we, Mayor?
No, we're not. We
Okay,
take our
good enough.
request and we'll put them all together with all of the requests with our treasurer.
Okay.
So
Anyways, that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Nadine, for your presentation, and we will discuss it with our treasurer with all the other grants. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jesus.
Okay. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the staff reports as presented on the agenda for January 13th, 2025. Can I have a mover? Gail and Ken. All in favor? Thank you. And this is the first one. I have a motion but that bylaw number 2025-003, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement for fire protection services for the Crane Lake area between the Corporation of the Township of Seguin and the Corporation of the Township of Archipelago, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Ken and Mario. And do we have Sean to talk to it? Sean, do you want to explain this a little bit?
Yeah, so this is a renewal of an existing agreement. So I believe the original one was signed in 2015, and they run on 5-year intervals. So yeah, changes to this one. In the past, there was never an adjustment for inflation, cost of doing business. So we have incorporated it into this agreement. So we increased the fees plus put a clause in that there will be an annual increase due to the cost of living moving forward.
Thank you. Does the council have any questions? All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that bylaw number 2025-001, being a bylaw to amend the Township of Seguin bylaw number 2006-125, property roll number 4903-010-001-21600, application number R 2024-0023-H for Northern Lakes Development is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. You will recall this came to council before. It's a new development on Little Lake Joe. Could I have somebody put it on the table for me, Greg and Mario? Are there any comments or questions from our Director of Planning? Go ahead, Taylor.
I have no questions or comments, but I'm available for questions. I tried to summarize the proposal on page 190, and then you can see the conclusions of the report on page 196, 195, where that's some of the rationale included.
Are there any further questions from council? No? All in favor? Thank you. Okay, I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby authorize the following members of council to attend the 2025 Association of Municipalities of Ontario Conference being held on August 17th to 20th in Ottawa. Reimbursement of expenses will be as per township policy. Who would like to attend? Amo, Councillor Finson. Anybody else? I'll be going. Okay. Could I have a motion to this effect? Greg and Ken. All in favor of Councillor Finson and Mayor McDermott? Thank you.
I'm in Scotland, but no, I'm back on the 17th, I think.
Okay. Sorry, you okay? I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of Seguin does hereby authorize the following members of council to attend the 2025 Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities FONOM Conference being held May 5th to 7th, 2025 in North Bay, Ontario. Reimbursement will be as per township policy. Who would like to go to North Bay? Councillor Adams. Zinski. Okay. And we'll go. Okay. Can I have somebody put this on the table? Elmer. And Greg. All in favor? I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby support the Perry Sound Curling Club's funding application to the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund and the Ontario Trillium Foundation for accessibility improvements to the curling club.
No, maybe help. You can put my name on there too, please, Mayor.
Oh, for FONOM?
Yeah, for FONOM. Yep.
Okay, you've been added. Is everybody okay that Councillor Collins gets to go too? Okay, that's fine. This, I think this is just asking for a letter of support for these applications, isn't it? Could I have a mover and a seconder? Gail, Terry? Okay. All in favor of supporting these requests? Thank you. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby appoint Councillor Greg Getty as the council representative on the Township of Seguin Committee of Adjustment for the 2025 term. This has to be renewed each year, so Ken and Mario, and all in favor? Thank you for your due diligence and service. I know, it's a big commitment. People don't realize it until they've actually done it and driven around. But it's also an interesting way to find every corner of the township. This is just number E is really just information about a change in the way counselors can be disciplined, I guess. And it's been a long time in coming. It came up every year at AMO and FONUM and everywhere. And the last time Minister Calandra spoke to it, he just said, I'm not going to release this till I get it right. But I think it's given counselors and integrity commissioners more clout to deal with misbehaving by counselors. In the past, they couldn't be asked to resign, and they can now. So it's for information. It's in your package. And 8F is a discussion on the MZO as requested by Councillor Bazinski. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I spent quite a few hours on the telephone and reading emails and so on, because that North Star article generated a huge amount of comment and in some cases concern from residents in my ward, which would be the ward that would be directly impacted. And so I thought that the best solution, I don't want to deal with the comments or anything at this meeting. I just want to get across that what I said to my residents was that I would advocate for a public meeting to be held related to the Minister's zoning order lands. And I've got a motion that I gave to our clerk. And the motion reads that Seguin staff prepare a background document discussing the need, rationale, history, zoning specifics, ownership, and present status of the MZO lands. This document should be made available to the public, including all lake associations in the township, by the end of February. And a public meeting should be held at the Foley Agricultural Hall on the last weekend of March.
We have a mover from Councillor Bazinski. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Adams? Are you seconding it? We need
Yes.
to put it on, okay.
Yep.
Okay, Councillor Adams, you have the floor.
I also had a lot of emails and calls. But one thing, I'm not against the development at all. I think what the people want, they want more information on the progress of the MZO, the financial part of it, their tax dollars, stuff like that. Like I am in support of development, but I am support of what the constituents are looking at too.
Okay, Councillor Fellner.
Thanks, Mayor. I as well, actually, after a couple of emails hit the ground running last week, I was wondering whether I was the counselor in Ward 4 or Ward 2. Because I had a lot of emails and calls from your constituents, particularly the ones that live over in Rose Point. And I urge them to, and these people were involved way back when a decision was made to pursue an MZO as an opportunity to get this land rezoned in an expedient manner because of the demand for accelerated housing and attainable housing in the region, which was business owners were telling us we can't hire staff because they can't find a place to work. So, you know, there was comments from the hospital. I think you see in the addendum a letter from the hospital why they think it's critical, you know, that something like this proceeds. I'm not amenable to holding a public meeting because we're going to have to hold lots of public meetings this year as it is, the MZO. I mean, I don't think there's any point in holding any kind of public meeting until the results of our study come back, which are supposedly at the end of the third quarter of this year. So I think the problem is, you know, I've read the auditor's report. I mean, it's basically a report on how provincial staff conducted themselves. I mean, we're simply just asking for our request to be heard. It was in there an awful long time. We hired the right people to guide us through this process. And the intent is in this process not to have absolutely no negative impact to the taxpayers of Seguin, right? But until you get hard data to say, okay, well, here's the different paths forward, there's not a lot to discuss. And I'm very much a proponent of attainable housing. I think you heard, you know, we've got a proposal on the table for a housing project, and it's certainly a very interesting project. But you know, I think we can, by increasing density, we can do a better entrance level housing for our kids to stay in the area after they're done school. Housing to support the businesses. And what I kind of found remarkable in your ward, Mario, is so many of the people that run the significant businesses in this region live in your ward. You know, the big employers, you know, the big lumber employers, boat builders, marinas, right? And they're crying for a solution because they can't keep their businesses up at the same level. So I think, you know, I don't disagree we need public meetings, but we're going to have lots of public meetings. The mayor put out an email to clarify things last week after some of the emails came out from these lake associations. And the process is not done. There's been no decision to spend any kind of money on infrastructure. And the money that was committed for the studies is completely recoverable. Few of these developments go ahead and it's paid off anyhow. I mean, we've already got one in that's approved and gone. So, but that's what I got to say about that. I think you have to be very careful about what you tell people to make sure that you stay with the facts. The facts are the facts, you know, and anything deviation from the facts just causes a lot of dissent and it causes a lot of confusion, and it's not particularly fair to the people who are told that. So that's what I have to say about that, but I'm not in favor of scheduling a special public meeting at this point in time.
Councillor Bazinski.
Well, I would agree with you that the facts are the facts. The problem is that there's a perception that people don't have the facts. So what I'm suggesting is that the public meeting would bring everyone up to speed on what all of the details are. It's been my experience in doing project development that there's always a certain amount of public concern about something they don't know and understand. And if you're not prepared to give them all the details up front, when you have a concrete proposal, you're going to have a lot of pushback because people will feel that things were done without proper consultation. So that's why I'm suggesting it, that it would be good for the residents of the township to be brought up to speed on all the details about this process under normal Planning Act provisions. If you were going to have a change in your zoning or a change in your official plan, you would have a public meeting that would provide background and allow people to speak. I think if you provide all of the facts, I think people will be better informed, less likely to be adverse to it. And if you can reassure them that no existing ratepayers are going to be having to bear the brunt of the development, then I think it would be beneficial and in detail. And also maybe a little bit more information on how many development units do we need? Do we have any idea? Normally, in my experience with development in Southern Ontario, there are studies done that identify how many units would be required. Now, I know this proposal with hall construction is a very good one, and hopefully it will come to pass, and that will provide a certain number of units. And it would be nice to know, not just for today, but planned for the future, you know, how many units might be required. But I think it's something that we have to discuss with our ratepayers, because we need to have an open and transparent process. That's what I campaigned on, and that's what I will push for. Thank you.
Councillor Fellner. Council.
I can't hear him.
Keep in mind that everything that's been done today has been open and transparent. There's been nothing hidden at any point in time. And it's all in the, if you go back through the publicly recorded meetings, you'll see it all there. So I don't think it's, quite as dire as what you say. Now, what the potential for the area is whatever that figure was, 6,000. How long would it take to build that out? Maybe 20 years, maybe 25 years. I don't know. I mean, I think the symposium on housing that went on, about 2-3 years ago, I think.
2019, 65 organizations attended.
I think the mayor was there. I think Councillor Collins was there. It certainly identified a dire need for housing in this area. Now, whether they actually put a number on it, I don't know what that number was, but it was a big number.
3,500 new units of housing.
Right. So my point is I think you're correct in that, in saying that we have to be fair and transparent, which we do. But I mean, there's once we get our studies back from the studies that we've approved, that's when it's with that data you go to the public and say, okay, here's what we found out. Here's the alternates. Here's maybe where the roads can go. Here's the type of servicing that can be done. Here, and that's when you have your public engagement. And then as well as when the subdivision process comes in, if it gets to that point, developer wants to move with a subdivision, he's got a whole myriad of public meetings he's got to go through. So I don't think there's any attempt to hide anything from anybody, right? We just got to keep moving and try to move forward. Because if you don't, it never gets done.
I got something to say.
Okay, Councillor Finson first and then Councillor Collins.
Thank you.
And I would say to that is what halls did, is they did all of their studies first. Then they did all of their consultation, and then they brought it to the council. So I think that's exactly what we're doing. We're on the right track. The public meetings will happen when they happen, when we're ready for them, when all the studies are done. I believe the mayor wrote a letter that answered all of the questions that were in those letters, the questions that said we're only paying for 50% of it, we're not paying for all of it, and they're very concerned about the taxpayer. Well, that's all not true. That's all information that was given to them officially in a letter that said it's not true. It's be 100% paid. We had a guy come here. And say that. We sent him away and said, we're going to hold off on this. And he came back and said, yes, absolutely, 100%. He put it in writing. We have it in writing. I remember. I forget who requested that. I think it was you, Mr. Bazinski, that requested that happen, and it did. We got it in writing. So I think we're on the right track and we're doing all the right things. And I'm not sure why we're discussing having a special meeting that will happen as it happens, as it's supposed to happen when you do development lands. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Murio's looking at it from, there's a lot of misinformation out there. That's for damn sure. And if anybody wanted to know exactly what is going on to date, all they have to do is go on our website to Let's Connect Seguin, and that has all the info to date on the MZO. All right. As for a public meeting, yes, I think we do need a public meeting, Mario. But the end of March, come on, when the majority of Seguin residents are not here, that's shooting yourself in the foot. I think that, yes, there should be a public meeting, but maybe in the second or third quarter of 2025, when we have all the necessary reports available that is being put together right now. And we don't have no facts yet. So I think it's premature at this time to have a public meeting in March. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Councillor Getty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The comment that was made on Let's Connect Seguin, it is very transparent. It gives a very factual, chronological, detailed account of the process for the MZO application. I think I applaud the reply to the letter that came in. I think it answered a number of the questions very directly and took away any of the ambiguity relative to the rumors that are going around in the community. I think, in fairness, a lot of this misinformation started with an article in the Parry Sound in the North Star newspaper, which fed, not grounded in fact, but fed into the ability to ramp up the rumor mill in regards to the MZO authorization. And part of that was I have my own personal theory on that, but one of the concerns with any MZO application was there was a number of granted by the province. Some are currently they were pulled off the table for potential violations and corruption activities relative to them. Ours was not. So I think that it's incumbent upon us as well. Yes, the information is there within the Let's Connect Seguin. I think the reply to the specific questions that were asked in the mayor's reply this week addressed a number of those concerns. And I think that maybe we should be considering as a council to update the Let's Connect Seguin to answer some of those specific questions. The other issue is that we are relying on Let's Connect Seguin to get that information out. And not everybody within the township has access or subscribes to Let's Connect Seguin. So is it incumbent upon us to improve the way we're communicating the facts to the community? And can we do that in a different method and maybe a little more addressing everybody, people that don't have access to the internet, people that don't subscribe to Let's Connect Seguin. The facts are there. The process is transparent, I believe. And I think that maybe we should be looking at, we have a month before our next council meeting. Is it something that we can bring back for discussion on how we may be able to, are there possibilities to improve the communication system that we have to get that information out? Thank you.
Sure, Councillor Kinson.
You said it started after the article that was put out in the newspaper. I would suggest that the newspaper retract that article. That isn't true, that they put in the newspaper and put an article out saying, this is the actual fact. Sorry, we made a mistake.
I actually don't think that they were incorrect. I think they were incorrectly interpreted. The part that was declined, or that the staff recommended against us, and the minister went above it. The staff recommended this 2-week speed up. And quite honestly, Jason and I never heard of it. We didn't know what they're talking about. So the article about is really the Auditor General's report is commenting on how the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing office works.
So it's the way
Not
it's
about us.
interpreted.
It's about the process in the Ministry
But
of
maybe we
Municipal
could
Affairs.
fix it by putting it in that same format rather than mailing out everybody a letter. Put it in a format where the media has access to it. Is rather than
Okay, our DAO will weigh in here.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. A couple things. I'll try to stay organized here. I'll start with the comments about that made in the newspaper. The Auditor General of Ontario, their job, that team's job and responsibility is to undertake a review of ministry activities. The fact that they chose to use Seguin as a test case where they decided to poke around and ask some questions and learn how and why and how it all worked is at their prerogative, and I was happy to help accommodate and answer any questions they may have had. It has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do with the merit of our application. It was entirely a review of the process undertaken within the ministry. So it has nothing to do with our MZO in particular. Just to make sure, and I've read all of this correspondence that's come in, a whole bunch supporting the development and wanting to see it for the benefits as they perceive them to be, and a whole bunch of them that are in opposition to the MZO. For clarity for everybody, the MZO is approved, and it's been approved for 2 years, almost 2 years now. There is no debate as to whether or not we should proceed with an MZO. The MZO was approved by the minister, if I remember correctly, I think it was in March of 2023. So we're 22 months ago since it was approved. The work that's being undertaken today is the background work for an engineered solution or a variety of solutions, opportunities for us to explore and ultimately provide some direction on how those lands become serviced. So I'm trying to help and understand based on the motion that's been put on the table, if there's a debate about whether or not we should be having an MZO in this community, that ship has sailed, to be fair. We have the MZO and we've had it for some time. The next discussion point, I think, to Councillor Fellner's comments is when Ainley Group, who's been retained to undertake the environmental assessment and master planning for infrastructure, comes back with our options report. They are slated to come back to us at the end of the first quarter or early in the second quarter as per their work plan. I don't have a defined timeline on my hands today. Based on what was on the agenda, I thought we were talking about the Auditor General's report. I can get you some information on when they will come back with an options report that council can then have a look at, and the public will be engaged. There's a defined process in their scope of work where not only will they come and present the options, but then there's a 30-day commenting period that's provided to the public. We're gonna have ample consultation on the solutions on how we service the MZO lands. But just to be crystal clear for everybody, the debate as to whether or not we pursue or have an MZO, that ship sailed. We have it. It's done. It's in legislation and it's been there for nearly 2 years. So I'm happy to take direction from council on how you want us to address sharing information. But current day, I'm in the same position as you are as we wait for the engineering reports to come back to provide us with some more information on next steps. And again, that will have a mandatory public consultation period associated with it.
I don't have any problem waiting until we get the assessment and all that. Like I know they want a meeting, but to me, it makes more sense to wait till we get all the facts. And I understand that some of the concerns were different than just the MZO. They're wondering why we weren't putting money into the roads, and so on. And I think that was a lot of the concerns too. My question is the meeting going to be during, like, towards the end of the summer? Do you think, or because
Councillor Adams, I don't have the specific schedule in front of me.
Yeah.
Again, the agenda item I had today said we were talking about the Auditor General's report. I wasn't thinking I was coming in here to discuss the Ainley engineering exercise. So I'm happy to come back in February and share the schedule on when you should expect updates coming out of the Ainley exercise and their assignment. I don't have that information in front of me today, and I won't put our staff on the spot and ask them to start digging right here, right now. I think if council's comfortable in waiting until February, I can give you that schedule. Otherwise, I'd ask for a recess so I can go and pull that information out.
Well, I agree with the councillors about the assessment and everything else. Unfortunately, I think if we had a meeting right now, until we got more information, it might be kind of a heated meeting. And I think we have to have a relaxed meeting to get the facts proper. Like I'm not against the development at all, but I have to look after the constituents in my ward, and I have got a lot of calls and emails about this too.
And to your point, Councillor Adams, based on what I'm reading in the correspondence today from all these letters that have come in, for those that are in opposition, I don't think they understand it. First of all, I think they believe that there's some cost that's going to come as a burden to their tax bill. And in fairness, there's not. It's 100% recoverable. We've gone through that back in June and July when we had Hempson here. All of this is recoverable through the DC charges. And so, and in fairness, we haven't passed the DCs for the area-specific MZO lands because we're still waiting to figure out what kind of infrastructure dollars are going to be required to service it. So to have a meeting right now with the misconception out there that this is going to cost taxpayers dollars and that there's perhaps a debate as to whether or not we should be pursuing an MZO is not fair. They're going to come in with heat when, and I've attended many of these meetings, you know, I'm not sure what the outcome would be if I don't have enough facts to be able to, as a staff, be able to share with them, here's the facts that we're talking about, here's the facts that we're dealing with, and here's the next steps. So to have a meeting right now in the absence of that information, I think is likely not the most productive. But again, I'm happy to have that meeting if that's what council wants us to do. We take your direction at this point.
Councillor Bazinski, and then I'd like. Sorry, Councillor Bazinski, and then I'd like to call a vote on whether we have a public meeting before we have information.
So my comments weren't about whether or not we should have an MZO. As the CAO has said, we have an MZO. The comments are about all of the different responses to that North Star article, which has generated a lot of ratepayer and Lake Association comments. So what I was trying to do was suggest that a meeting to put all the facts in front of people would maybe resolve some of those issues. And I thought maybe by the end of March, but maybe Councillor Collins is right. Maybe it should be around the beginning of May when everyone's coming back from Southern Ontario. And I'd be quite happy to amend my resolution to say a public meeting by the beginning of May, in which case then I'm sure the consultant reports will be done as well, because they're not going out and doing field work through the winter. So, well, if they are, they can do it on roads. They can't do it on biology. But anyway, I'd be quite happy to amend it to say sometime in May for a public meeting. The key is that we are responsible to our ratepayers, and a number of us have been getting letters, calls, and other because there's concern. And I think that in order to resolve the concern, we should have a meeting with our ratepayers. And I'd also, in addition to amending it to say beginning of May, I'd like to call for a recorded vote on it.
Can I suggest that what I'm hearing from most councillors is that a public meeting And public consultation should occur when there's the results of some of our studies and the facts available. And our CAO has said he is not prepared to put a date on staff because we don't have those schedules in front of us right now. So I personally will vote against any resolution that has a date in it that we can't defend. I do believe we need to have public consultation. You saw the list of studies that the hall construction people have presented. It took them 2 years to do them. And we will have all of those studies available for our ratepayers, all of our ratepayers, not just those that live in Ward 2, when the consultants are finished. And any public meeting that we hold will invite 100% of the community, whether they're Seguin ratepayers, Ward 2 ratepayers, or others in the community who will benefit from this study. So we right now have a motion on the table.
Can I just say one more thing, Mayor, please?
Sure. Go ahead, Councillor Collins.
Okay, thank you. Mary, I think that the May is still a little bit too early. I think that if you were looking at the second quarter, mid-second quarter in the middle of the summer, you got everybody here, but doing it and putting a date down, they're still not, they aren't here yet. So I would say second quarter, mid-second quarter. Thanks.
Councillor Fellner.
Yeah, I think at this time, the way that the motion stands right now, I wouldn't support it. I'd try to defeat it. I think that you can go back to your ratepayers and assure them that there's going to be no out-of-pocket expenses for them before there's a public consultation. And if I remember correctly, way back when they redid the official plan, like the consolidated official plan for Seguin, which had been Foley and Humphrey and Christie and all these folks got together. You know, they'd had public meetings, but they also had open houses. And I think this is an important enough issue that you need all the facts, your consultants, and we've hired very, very good consultants here. You know, they need the time to put together the proper presentation. I remember that the consultants were all available at these open houses. I went to 2 or 3 of them. They were extremely informative. I mean, I walked out of there with a totally different mindset than I did walking in. And I think that's the type of thing that we need to do. And I don't think we can put a date on right now when we can do that, because we need the studies back. You need the data. It's all just supposition.
I agree.
But Mario, I'm not against engaging with the public. Matter of fact, I think it's essential that we do.
Okay, Councillor Bazinski, last comment on this, please.
Okay, maybe we can put a lid on this now, but I'm prepared to defer the resolution maybe to the next meeting, and the CAO has said that he should have a time frame on the studies. At least we'll have a better understanding as to when they'd be ready, but I'm just a little concerned that if we don't do something, the ratepayers are going to believe that we're not being open and transparent. We're not willing to have a public meeting. That's my end of my comment.
Thank you, Worship. What I would offer to council is that we will step back over the next few weeks. Fortunately, we are in a monthly business cycle meeting right now, which is favorable for giving us a bit of time. I'd be happy to prepare a report that comes back to council that outlines not only what the next steps are, but I think we can provide a recap on what's been done to state the facts. We can do that in a staff report, which of course would be a public document. It can be sent to everyone and anyone. I have no concerns with any of that. And in that we can define the schedule and the plan, the work plan for what's coming next and what the intent of those engagements will be. I'm happy to do that for the next meeting.
Councillor Finson, do you have a comment?
I would just say that I would agree to it when the studies are done. When the studies are done, I think the meeting and that this would be a nice touch to get them to that. But I think I I would say yes, if it was when all the studies were done with no date on it, whenever they're completed.
But we have Counselor Bazinski saying he will defer this entire resolution until next meeting. What do I write? Counselor Getty?
And I mean, communication is what this is all about. I think everybody realizes that there's a communication issue. It's how we address it. And I'm going to throw this to you, Jason, to address a report, and to you as well, Mario. Is it reasonable to put this over until March? I think if we're now, I don't know. I know the next meeting is February, but it's a short cycle between now and then because this one is extended. In fairness, with everything else that staff has going on, I don't think putting it over till March is not prudent and allows, if you have specific concerns, that you can convey them to Jason, allows Jason with staff to address that report. I think to put it into February in a 3-week cycle is very tight. And I'm just proposing March because of the fact that this is a late January meeting. It shortens it, and there is the conference that's coming up next week. So I think staff will be out as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Counselor Getty. And I think Jason's offered to do a staff report that lays out the process, some of the dates, the open house concept that Counselor Fellner referred to is what we did for the official plan. It's engaging. It goes over, I think it was all morning and all afternoon. People could drop in at their leisure. It's totally different than a town hall meeting where people get to stand up and ask questions that are not based on facts. So I personally, if we're going to defer it, I don't think we need a vote at this point. But I would encourage anyone, I think the staff report, once it's done, let's write it in the point of view that it can be circulated to anyone and everyone. And I am happy to discuss my summary note that I wrote last week with any person that wants to call me and justify all of the facts based on the open parts of all of the meetings that have happened since 2018 on this MZO. And they're all documented. So how do I defer it? What has to
Well, if
happen?
you actually read it. So question for Counselor Bazinski through you, Madam Mayor.
He could just withdraw it. Can he just withdraw it?
So what I was actually saying, and it leads to what Counselor Collins is saying, if you read the actual resolution, it would depend on what the date was that Counselor Brzezinski was proposing to defer, because if he defers to the next meeting, then the resolution won't make sense. Because there's a report in there to go out to the public by the end of February. There's the meeting at the end of March he's proposing, and we've already heard council say that they're not going to support a public meeting. So if February 3rd you did this resolution, it's probably not going to make sense with the dates that are in it, is what I'm saying. So it could be deferred. That's up to Councillor Brzezinski to recommend, to say that. He needs a seconder for that. You vote on the deferral. If it gets deferred, that's the end of it. If it doesn't get deferred, then you have the original motion. Or it could be withdrawn as per what Councillor Collins has said, and then you need the direction to staff on the report that the CAO was talking about, that, and a date on that, whether that's the February meeting or the March meeting. And that might then affect when Councillor Brzezinski would do the resolution and the dates in it, if that makes sense.
To Counselor Brzezinski, how would he like to proceed?
So I guess I'll withdraw the motion. But, you know, I would hope that Jason could look at the proposals, because having been a consultant, I know that when I submit a proposal to a client, there's always a schedule on it. And there's a schedule of payments too. So perhaps he could inform council as to the consulting reports that are coming out, when the consultants had proposed to have the reports completed. That would help provide some information. And then we would know the timing that we could have whatever public involvement process for this.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. We certainly do have those schedules. I just don't have them at my fingertips. As I hope you can appreciate, there's lots that happens within the organization day to day. And I just, again, I was under the presumption we were talking about something else today. So happy to bring that report back if council's comfortable with providing direction by, I appreciate the March date being a little more, giving us a little more breathing room. That's appreciated. If that's the direction council wants to provide, we will bring that report back in March for council consideration, and then council, you can receive it, ask questions. We can do what you need to do or what you'd like to do after that from there.
Councillor Bazinski.
Sorry. And I guess when the consultant reports are going to come out, they'll be, council will have an opportunity to have a look at them, hopefully in advance of a Thursday for a Monday meeting.
My understanding from recollection is that not only will there be reports that'll be prepared and submitted to council, but they'll do presentations, they'll be in draft format, and then there'll be a 30-day commenting period, if I remember correctly. I'll clarify all of that in that report for you, but it's, yeah, there's ample opportunity. There'll be paid. So I think if council's comfortable, just let me go to work here and get you a report.
So direction to, we're withdrawing this.
Is Councillor Adams agreeable to that?
Are you? Oh, yeah, because you were the seconder. Okay. And the direction to staff is to summarize the next steps, when the reports will be ready, what the processes are, and that'll come back to the March meeting. Withdraw and not withdrawal. Okay, thank you. We move on. Hang on here. I've lost my place. Sorry. Okay, I don't know if we still have Michelle. I have a motion that bylaw number 2025-002, being a bylaw to authorize borrowing for the year 2025, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Hi, Michelle. Or I guess we need to put it on the table. Ken and Terry. Michelle, do you want to explain it every year?
Yeah, this is just our annual borrowing bylaw. It is for 5 million. For the past 20 years, it's been 3 million. I think it's time to put it up. But it's just our standard borrowing bylaw we pass every January.
Do you have a question? Councillor Getty.
Believe it or not, I have a question on this. Michelle, I think it's just a typo. In section 1, the written sum is $3 million and the bracketed numerical sum is $5 million.
It's
And
five.
just whether
Yeah.
it has to be amended before we vote, that was all. Thank you.
See it, I think. Yeah, okay. It's done on the one that will pass. It's only one place, Councillor Getty, or have you read it? Okay. All in favor? Thank you. Oops, sorry. And I have a motion that bylaw number 2025-004, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a memorandum of understanding prescribed snowmobile trail land use permission between the South Seguin Snowmobile Club and the Corporation of the Township of Seguin is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Mover, Terry Vincent, all in favor? And I would just like to take this opportunity. I don't know whether they're listening. The South Seguin Snowmobile Club is burning the candle at both ends, trying to get all these permissions for the trails this year. And they need to be complimented on how they're doing it. It is amazing, the amount of work they're doing. I'm disheartened by some of the negativity on Facebook that's going their way, because these are all volunteers working to get the trails open. Councillor Fellner?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't do Facebook, so I don't know about those negative comments, but I can tell you that Many requests have gone out and gotten zero responses. And what that does without land use permits being signed, then they're not allowed to open the trail. It's just, if they did open the trail and something happened in that particular portion of the trail, they'd become personally liable, which of course is a terrible position to put anybody in that's in a volunteer organization. There's some critical land use agreements that need to be obtained between Humphrey and Rosso in order to continue some of the events that we run every year on the Snowmobile Trail. And I've been working with them to reach out to some of these people. And so if they reach out to you and ask for your help, please help them, because right now there's still a lot of trails that go nowhere on the official map. So, and it's not from lack of trying on their point. Thank you.
Thank you. Council reports. Okay. How about we start in 6? Go ahead, Gail.
Okay, I had a Belvedere Heights meeting on, I don't even know the dates. It was in January. Belvedere Heights meeting, and we just were going over what's going to be happening because they're separating from Lakeland, possibly. There's a possibility there. So we were going over those things. The Rosso Caring community met on December the 4th, and we put gifts together for our December Lunch and Learn. It was, the December Lunch and Learn was on the 17th, and it was fabulous, like fabulous. It was really well attended, and the musician was good, and everybody had a really good time. It's particularly Sarah Neal, who's 91. Honestly, she sang every song, and her arms were flailing. I was worried. Anyway, she was fantastic. It was a beautiful thing. And then we had some issues, some traffic issues on Lock Street, and there was a snowbank issue. Somebody almost got hit by a car waiting for a bus. I can't even tell you that Tom's group, like honestly, it was amazing. They went and capped all the snowbanks, and MTO happened to be doing their roads, and they did all their corners. It was magnificent, like almost immediately. It just happened as this happened, and I called. Everything was already kind of being put in place, so it was fabulous. They did a really good job. I had a DSAB meeting on December 20th. It was a special meeting, so we had it in the morning. And they talked about a spree and how many families they were able to support this year. It was pretty amazing. They did raise quite a bit of money. They have a new finance lady who's doing really well, and everything's running smoothly. Their KPMG report came back good. Another Rosso Caring community meeting. We're planning card night on Thursday nights at the Rosso Community Hall with young people and old people. Well, we had mostly old people, but two young people showed up. But the funny thing was the older ladies taught these two young lads in their 20s how to play bid euchre. I never laughed so much in my life just listening to the people telling them how to play, and they gave them cards to take home to practice because they have to come back this Thursday and do better. So it was quite a bit of fun. There was only 8 of us there, but I think it'll grow. We had a Rosso Memorial Hall fundraising meeting. It was our first one. It was really well done. We're putting a roadmap together. Jason came and gave us some good advice coming from the school, from the pool, all of the things they did. So kind of giving us a way to telling me the things they learned. So a roadmap was one thing in particular. And I have to say, Chelsea Penrice came out and she was amazing. Like, I was so surprised, like what a ball of fire she was, and she's right on it. So she's looking into a gala already, even though our roadmap's not finished. But she's pretty fabulous. I did attend cards and had lots of fun. Had another Belvedere Heights meeting this morning, and 2 Belvedere Heights meetings, one with finance and one with the board. It was short, but lots of good information. And I think that's all. I think I missed a DSAB meeting.
Yes, you did.
I just got the report and I'm like, holy.
Councillor Collins, you're next. Whoa.
Yeah, I had to.
Anyway, sorry. I'm done. Thank you.
I had to handle that meeting all by myself.
Sorry.
Thanks, Gail. Anyways, I had 2 DSAB meetings, one on December 20th. That was a short meeting. It was just approving some bylaws moving ahead. And of course, on the January 9th, There was another DSAB meeting. Again, it was a short meeting and just approving the bylaws. And a Seguin Business Committee meeting on the 9th as well. And that's basically it. That's all I have to say.
Councillor Fellner. Thank you, Mayor. I haven't had any official meetings this year yet. I did attend the first annual New Year's Eve festivities at the Foley Hall. This is a first-time event pitched by our new, not so new rec committee now. My friend Councillor Adams was in attendance and he cooked many, 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 many hot dogs. Matter of fact, we ran out of hot dogs or buns or something. I had to send for more in town. We really didn't know what to expect. I would say we probably ended up with 200 to 250 people that came out, watched some fireworks. There was crafts for the kids, some nice music, campfire, and Councillor Adams, excellent chef, barbecue skills. So all in all, a success. Thanks to the ladies at the Foley Ag Society, they were instrumental in pulling this off, but it was lots of fun. So that's, I've got some meetings coming up later in the month, but nothing, everybody's been easy on me so far. Thank you.
Same as Councillor Fellner, I haven't had any official meetings this month yet, but I feel like I'm back in high school doing online training for the new Police Services Board for West Perry Sound. It's been an ongoing process, and I've had a number of calls, obviously the same as most councillors have over since the North Star article, but those are moving forward, so thank you.
Councillor Pazynski.
Similarly, I had many, many calls and emails and so on the North Star article, and that's it, but it was a lot.
Councillor Adams. Oh, your mic.
I said, I got stuff on here from December. December the 12th? Where was our last meeting? December the 9th, wasn't it?
The ninth.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
and the other one was the 2nd. We had one on the 2nd and then we had the budget meeting.
Okay, December the 12th, I attended the staff lunch at Humphrey Arena Hall. December the 18th, I attended the Recreation and Culture meeting. December 31st, I attended and cooked a lot of hot dogs at the fireworks in Foley. The event was well attended and the fireworks display, get back on there, was enjoyed by a lot of families who showed their appreciation at the end. They all cheered and clapped and it was great. Over the past week, I received a lot of emails with comments and concerns about the MZO land wanting a meeting to be held so they could voice their concerns. After this meeting, I got a Zoom meeting with Chamber, but I just wanted to bring something up before I end my report. I would like to put forth a suggestion to council think about quarterly reports from department heads. Quarterly reports from department heads.
That would include what?
Keeping us updated. I know, Jason, you do too, but like Tom, where he is with his, I'd like to see quarterly reports. He used to do monthly. I think quarterly is fair.
Can I suggest that Jason take it back to the senior management team and see what they say?
Like,
Well, I think we should. I happen to agree with, we should see a quarterly report from all our senior management. We haven't been getting them. And I think it gives us an idea of where the township is. Everything, I mean, Jason used to give us a quarter report, but that's been a while too. So I just think that it's a good idea.
Take it back.
I agree with Ken.
I would say every 4 months.
Three times a year. That's not a big deal.
Go ahead.
I know you're not gonna like it.
I'm happy to take that back and we'll come back to you with an update. One thing that we started last year that we intend to continue to forge forward with would be routine reporting on sort of strategic plan and strategic objectives. And I think at the
Yes.
council level, when we talk about policy and future direction, the strategic planning updates is, and the implementation of the objectives of that is really where I think, well, I don't want to tell you where you should be, but I think that's where councils generally tend to be. If you want to start into the weeds, it's
no.
It's going to get challenging. It's going to get extremely challenging would be my. Yeah. So I guess my comment back would be, do you want to know what the staff are doing on a day-to-day basis, or do you want to know how the organization is doing in achieving its strategic objectives? Because we did have a little stretch there where we weren't reporting because we were developing a new framework.
I can't hear a thing.
Because I didn't have my mic on, Ted.
Oh, I thought you guys shut me off.
Well, we did. Stuff like that. It's something for council to think about. Like, it's just a suggestion. That's all. That's my report.
Okay, thank you. And I think from as benchmarking against the strategic plan and the strategic objectives, it might be the way to go. But I don't think I want to be in the weeds of what people do day to day.
Oh, no,
that's
not
for
a-
sure. Okay, my report will be as brief as possible. December 6th, we had an airport commission meeting and lunch. And then the business committee took our MP and our MPP and some of the members of the business committee for a tour of Crofters, which was excellent, surprised a whole lot of people. The 9th, we had our budget meeting. On the 11th, I met with the South Seguin Snowmobile Club and some of the people that were reluctantly giving them permissions, and I think we turned a few of them over, including the Jolly Rogers. That same day, there was the library Christmas tea and a rec center meeting. And if you haven't heard already, our anonymous donor of Don Carmichael, who said he'd contribute $100,000 matching funds. In fact, we raised over $190,000. So he upped his matching money to 190. So that was a very successful campaign. December 12th was the Christmas lunch with staff, which was great. January 9th, Ted and I had a business committee meeting. And on January 10th, we had a special airport commission meeting. And I did send it out to all of you. There's a first time ever under 16 women's basketball tournament this weekend. Go if you can, take your kids if you can. We need to prove to the rec center that we really are spectators coming. Every hotel room's gone for this city and the restaurants are putting on specials. This is going to bring in thousands and thousands of dollars to the town of Parry Sound. And this is just the beginning of what the rec center could look like. So over to you, Jason.
Thank you, Worship. And maybe I'll start with Happy New Year, seeing as I don't think we've addressed that to the community yet, but Happy New Year. Just wanted to send out thanks to the many members of our community who participated in our branding exercise through the online survey, interviews, and our focus groups. So the team is currently reviewing the findings to inform next steps. So we'll be back with an update shortly. I also want to take a moment on behalf of all of the staff and send a big thank you out to the residents and businesses who supported our holiday food drive. The township collected 274 pounds of non-perishable food donations and additional $270 in cash to support the Parry Sound Harvest Share. Residents are reminded to do their part to protect our assets and keep the community safe. Ashes are not a good thing in our transfer sites. They don't belong in the garbage stream when it costs us a lot of money to extinguish those fires and then repair those bins. Please have a look online at what the many benefits are you can do with your fireplace ashes, including spreading them around on your driveway. They're very valuable use around your home and very costly expense to the township when they're dumped in the transfer stations. Lots of good work going on with our community services staff, and they're hoping that weather cooperates just a little bit more to help us get the Humphrey skating loop up and running any day now. Hopefully in the next week or two. We got some cold weather coming again. Maybe a little break from the snow and those cold temperatures, and we should be back to skating outdoors right across from the arena. And the 40th annual Seguin Sled Dog Mail Run is coming up. Businesses are encouraged to join the tradition and have their business profiled leading up to and at this popular event. The township is accepting sponsorship forms until Friday, January 17th. That's it for me, Your Worship.
Thank you. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the board and committee minutes and agendas and the correspondence as presented on the agenda and the addendum for January 13th, 2025 meeting of council. Ken and Mario. All in favor? Thank you. And here we go again. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby proceed to a closed meeting at 4:52 p.m. in order to address matters pertaining to a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information which is being supplied in complete confidence to the municipality, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of an organization. And that's about West Inc., which is advanced waste recovery, and a litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals, which is the alleged contravention of Township of Seguin zoning bylaw at 1089 Highway 141. Could I? We will, yes. Gail's putting it on the table. Terry, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby rise from closed session and declare the regular meeting reconvened at 6:15 p.m. Now, a mover? Gail and Terry. All in favor? Thank you. I have a motion that bylaw number 2025-006, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a waste processing agreement between West Inc. and the Corporation of the Township of Seguin, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a mover? Ken and Mario? All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that bylaw number 2025-005, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of meetings of council, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Greg and Mario. All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn this meeting of council at 6:16 p.m. to meet again on Monday, February 3rd, or at the call of the mayor. Ken and Greg. All in favor? And Councillor Fellner will be in the chair on February 3rd.